Shout out to all these fans for coming up with the idea to this video. If you have any cool ideas for a future video, let me know in the comments below. I may just give you a shout out. At long last, the most requested video topic I've ever had is now here. I am the Net Alliance, and this is the 8 Harry Potter films ranked from worst to best. But before I begin, let me just say, every Harry Potter film is good in its own way. I think this is one of the franchises, one of the very rare franchises I should say, that all the films are just as good as each other. There are some that are a little bit better, but in all, they're all pretty good films. And as always, this is just my personal opinion, so please let me know your personal opinion and how you'd rank these films in the comments below. But please keep it civil with the other guys down there, you know. I know there's the occasional troll that comes around, but just kind of let them go. Don't feed the trolls. But without any further ado, let's begin. Starting at number 8, I have Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Now, I went to go see this film in movie theaters back when I was younger, and I saw it again more recently, and it still hasn't changed. Like, usually sometimes when you go to see a movie in the movie theater, and then you wait a little bit, and then you see it again, you're like, oh, you know what, I kind of missed that, so maybe it's a little bit better than I thought it was. Well, this isn't exactly that. I would honestly compare this film to the final part of the Twilight series, because we're building up to this epic battle or something, and all of a sudden it's kind of just like a letdown. Now, the Order of the Phoenix is kind of like Harry getting a little alliance together with students and kind of teaching them how to fight, and you think like, oh, okay, by the end of the film, we'll see all of them team up, and then in the next film, we'll see them be better, and they're all still a team, the Order of the Phoenix is still formed, and then it's almost like, what happened to that? I like the idea of these students kind of taking it upon themselves to protect themselves, you know, where their teachers would be like, well, you know, you're not supposed to be doing that type of stuff. Where Harry was just like, you know, screw that. We should know how to use these powers. We should be able to defend ourselves if the bad guys ever come, especially since Voldemort's running around now. And I think it was just kind of a letdown because it kind of ended up being nothing. I mean, the characters were fine. All the actors were great. You know, it's nothing about that. It's more of the story part that I didn't really understand. It's like I said with a lot of other films that are based off of books. You kind of have to follow that story that they already have established. So I understand why the directors and the writers of this film might be a little held back because they kind of want to follow that story that's already been written. But I feel like there was a huge opportunity here that was kind of missed. And that's just why this is number 8 for me, because although it's not a bad film, like I said, with all these Harry Potter films, none of them are bad. This is the one I like the least, and this is the one I would choose to skip if I could choose out of any of them. So that's why it is number 8 on my list. At number 7, I have The Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, like I say with so many other films, The Hunger Games are included, even Twilight are included. When you take the final chapter and you split it just because of money, both of those films lack. I hate when movie franchises do this, and I'm so tired of seeing it. Of course, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 isn't nearly as bad as the other Part 1s we saw in those other franchises I just mentioned. It's still pretty boring. Don't get me wrong, it's still better than the Order of Phoenix, but it's just boring. Whenever someone talks about this one, they always talk about how everyone's always in a tent. And you know, when I first saw this film, I didn't believe that because I just didn't want to believe it because, you know, I like the Harry Potter films. Why should I believe that? And then I rewatched it recently, and it's true. They're in the tent the entire time, mostly, in this entire film. And the reason why is because they decided to take this giant conglomerate story and cut it right in half and then ruin it. Sure, there's a lot of source material in there, but a lot of the Deathly Hallows doesn't come in until Part 2. Part 1 is literally just stretched out so then you have to buy tickets to see it to understand what leads into Part 2. That's the whole reason why this one exists. Now, don't get me wrong, the story was still good, although it was a little boring. Of course, the actors, the cast, everything was good. The soundtrack, everything about this film was good. But it was so darn boring, it just ruins it. And that's why it's number 7 on my list. At number 6, I have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, I'll probably get a lot of hate for putting this at number 6 because a lot of people say that this is their favorite Harry Potter film, and I understand it is a very interesting film. But the reason why I have this one at number 6 is honestly because this was the one that kind of made Harry Potter convoluted to me. I mean, sure, we're explaining more stuff down the road in the extra books, but at this point we have so many questions, we're just kind of like, well, what is this Patronus? What are these black shadows running around? Why are there werewolves? You know, you have all these different questions, and of course, some of those are answered, but when you go on deeper, this one just makes it so much more convoluted. Like, why the heck is Voldemort after people, and then this and that? And we get a good glimpse of, like I said, the werewolf and the Sirius Black. That was a great actor and a cool character spot. I always just felt like this movie just didn't grab me. It might be just because of that. When I saw Harry Potter 1 and Harry Potter 2, they were fun. Of course, there was a little bit more of those elements where, like, you'll find out more in the future films, but it was still kind of fun to me. You know, it didn't take a super serious turn. The magic was kind of there. Where in this one, it almost felt like the magic turned more downwards to me. It was more dark, which a lot of people like, but I like the idea of the magic from the first two films. You know, I wanted to adventure this world and just kind of figure out what's going on, like that little magic time thing. You know, they could actually use time travel, and I feel like that was kind of forgotten in the future books, and it adds this entire like section of convolutedness that kind of ruins this film. But like I said, although the story is a little bit convoluted, it's still a pretty good film. It's a good story. I wouldn't say it's a fun film, but it's pretty good. But it's definitely the first step in Harry Potter growing up, which, like I said, isn't bad, but it's just not my thing. At number 5, I have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This one was kind of confusing to me when I first saw it in the movie theater, but like I said about the Order of the Phoenix, it didn't quite catch my fancy, so when this one came out, I was pretty hyped, especially considering it was pretty good. Although you could say Deathly Hallows Part 1 was technically the beginning of the downfall of Harry Potter, I would consider this one more like it. Think about it, in the very end, one of Harry's mentors turn against him, and his other mentor dies. The entire school gets taken over by Voldemort's people, and let's just say crap goes down. This was the downfall of the school in my personal opinion. Once Dumbledore died, you know stuff was about to go down. It's just a shame that Deathly Hallows Part 1 couldn't exactly follow up from the goodness that was actually this one. But I do consider this one better than The Order of the Phoenix, so I do consider it an improvement. And like I'll say with every single one of these films, I don't know why I still say it, the cast was good. We already know that. You know, the acting was good. We already know that. And of course, the soundtrack was great. We already know that. The action definitely picked up, and I think it really did deliver, especially when Dumbledore does die. It's a very sad moment, but without it, Harry might not have the ability to pull off what he does later in the films. So this is a very powerful arc in the entire Harry Potter franchise. And for that, I give it number 5. Now, before I go on, I just want to let you know that although I do like all the Harry Potter films, the ones that are remaining are the ones I actually love. So these are the ones that I have loved since I was a kid, so let's do this. At number 4, I have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I think this was an awesome introduction to the Harry Potter universe. I'll be honest, before these films actually came out, I didn't even know what Harry Potter was. I didn't even know there were books. I actually only bought the first book because I watched the film. Now, I never actually finished the book. I think I only got like the first 3 pages and I got bored of it because I hated to read when I was a kid. But this movie was really awesome. This thing inspired so much of my creativity when I was a kid, I can't even tell you. This thing was up there with Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? The Lord of the Rings. Now, of course, it wasn't as good as Lord of the Rings in my opinion, but it was still pretty good. All 3 of the leading cast were awesome. They worked well, they felt like friends, they felt like real people, and I think that worked really well in the film. However, I will admit, although I do love this film and it's near the top of my list, I do have a few gripes with it, but they're actually not that bad. One of the worst things I'd say is the CGI doesn't particularly hold up as well as it once did. Of course, I'm talking about that troll. You know what I mean. That troll was ugly as heck. It didn't look too bad before, but it looks, it really didn't hold up very well. But of course, that's not the film's fault because it did look good when it first came out, and of course some things just don't last as well as they usually do, although Jurassic Park seems to be perfectly fine in that order. Besides that Brachiosaur, that guy's looking a little dated. But that T-Rex though, I still think this film is fun, it's a perfect introduction to the Harry Potter universe, and it's part of my childhood, and because of that, it's number 4 on my list. Moving from the beginning of the franchise all the way to the end, I have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. This film really finished strong. Even though it did suffer from the whole splitting the story into 2 parts, it was definitely the better part in my personal opinion. There was action, there was drama, stuff was actually going on. The stakes were the highest we've ever seen it in the Harry Potter franchise. Although I was really looking forward to an actual battle between Harry and Voldemort, and although we did kind of get that, I really wanted to see them go at it like they're equals. It seems as though in the end of the film, Voldemort completely destroyed Harry pretty much the entire time, and Harry was just kind of just trying to fight back, which I understand. Voldemort's a very powerful dude, but by this point you think Harry would be really strong and be able to overpower him, at least match him. Another thing that I feel like could have been better was the fact that the snake was the final Horcrux, or the Holocrux, or Holocaust, whatever you want to call it, and Neville saved the day. You know, it just was like, what the heck? Harry should have been the one to destroy the last one. You know, the last one should have been Voldemort himself or something. The last one should have been Harry just like using all his power and all the might he has to just devour Voldemort with his power. And that should have been the last Horcrux. I mean, Neville can still kill the snake, but it was the fact that he kind of got like the final hit on Voldemort in a sense. I just didn't like that. But overall, the film was fun. It raised the stakes. It had awesome action, and it really just did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to finish up the Harry Potter franchise, and I think it did that perfect. Minus a few things here and there. And that's why why it's number 3 on my list. At number 2, I have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. You know, I see lists all the time where this is the worst on all their lists. I don't understand why. I love this film. I think it improves upon the spunkiness of the first film, but it doesn't get too dark like the third film. That's the kind of spot I think Harry Potter deserves to be in. Theme-wise, it was magical. You know, it didn't need the dark side to kind of come in, which I understand when you get a little older, the darkness needed to come more in, and I understand why they did that, but it was still kind of like, I like this feeling, which makes sense considering the first film and this film were both directed by the same guy, so they both had the same direction, and I understand why, and I think it did pretty good. Honestly, the reason why all these are fresh in my head is because I actually just binge watched them because they were on this weekend because of some Harry Potter thing, and I watched every single one, and when I was watching this one, I could not believe just how good the basilisk still looks. This is CGI from the mid-2000s. Wow, the mid-2000s? How old am I again? I think this movie came out a year after the first one, and what happened, man? That troll in the first one was so bad, and this basilisk in the second one was so awesome. And like I keep saying about the Harry Potter franchise, it doesn't have to be edgy, it doesn't have to be gloomy, kind of like the Lord of the Rings films. To me, Harry Potter should just be fun, and that's why it's number 2 on this list. And at number 1, we have Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This one was so good back in the movie theater, it's still good now. I love to watch this. The dragon fight is awesome. Even Robert Pattinson's cool. I just think from start to finish, this film has it all for me. This is what a Harry Potter film should be. I like the fact that it had a little bit of a darker tone, just like the third film, but it also kind of had that edgy and fun magical existence to it. Also, I like the whole tournament plot. I thought it was cool, and I thought Harry really did grow from this film. This film is the perfect Harry Potter film to me because it was fun, it did exactly what it's supposed to do, it showed the magic, and it pushed Harry along his path. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, that dragon fight was pretty darn awesome. With all that said, in conclusion, I say Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is the best Harry Potter film out there. But of course, that's just my opinion. How would you rank this list? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe if you guys enjoy my videos, and until next time guys, we'll see ya. Peace.